Okay, we'll start the program. People will join today because it's a very important day and we need to do this program on time. Participants will join at their own time. So thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be hosting this event once again. And I have my very dear friends from who are based in the United States joining us to speak today. Good morning to all those who are joining from the United States, and good evening to those who are joining from India. We will be missing our Tibetan friends today because Calden Zomo was supposed to join here, had to travel on an urgent basis. She could not join us today, so she had to drop from the event. But otherwise, we have our best good friends from the World Uyghur Congress and the Canadian Coalition Against Communism and the Southern Mongolian Human Rights Center from the US joining us today. It will be my pleasure to be the host of the evening. Uh, so let me just introduce the speakers first and then a little bit of the topic, and then we'll get to listen to the speakers today. It's my pleasure to invite Ilshat Kogbure, who is the director of uh, Chinese Affairs in the World Uyghur Congress. He's based in New York. Thank you for joining, Ilshat. It's a pleasure to have you on our program time and again. And
Same here.
you are a great voice for human rights of Uyghurs, and it will always be our endeavor to raise the issues relating to the human rights of Uyghurs. And we would be very happy to have you in each of our events that we host on human rights, particularly with regard to what's happening in East Turkestan these days. And you will be the best spokesperson to be speaking on it because you are a personally you've been affected by what has happened there. So I look forward to listening to you today. And I also have Zhengji from Toronto, somewhere near Toronto. She lives somewhere near Toronto, and she's the co-founder and vice president of the Canadian Coalition Against Communism, and she's an important voice of the Chinese internationally, globally, against the communist regime in Beijing. And she's also a human rights activist who fights for the human rights of Chinese people. It's my pleasure to be welcoming her to this event today. Thank you for joining, Cheng. And our third speaker will be Enge Batu. Enge Batu Togoshok is based again in New York. He is the director of the Southern Mongolian Human Rights Center based in the US. He's also a very important voice against human rights. As you all know, today the topic is, communist China's human rights record and why the democratic world should boycott, shun the Beijing Winter Olympics that will be happening in 2022. This is a very important topic in the sense that it is the right time for the democratic world to uh, raise in one voice and in a unified voice communicate to the repressive and totalitarian regime that exists in Beijing today. Uh, in Beijing today, that it's important uh, that they should uphold human rights and also democratize the political system in China, and also allow the voice of the people to be heard even politically inside China. So we at Law and Society Alliance, which is the host of this event, and Defense Capital, we raise our voice against human rights of all these people who have been subjected to human right violations by the Communist Party of China. And we also support democracy inside China. For that purpose, we keep hosting events. Defense Capital is our co-host today. To introduce myself, I am Bipindra. I'm the chairman of Law and Society Alliance. Law and Society Alliance is a Delhi-based think tank and think and act tank. We used to call it as the think and act tank, in the sense that we not only think and do some research work, we also act on our research work. that we do. And we also take pretty strong stand on issues that are related to human rights and democracy and the issues relating to that. Basically, the freedom of the people in all parts of the world in terms of their human rights is quite important, and we raise voice against that and we take a stand. Uh, Law and Society Alliance is also a research organization. We have published 2 research papers in the last 2 years. One research paper was released in 2020, which did a comparative study of the human rights and human development indices in Jammu and Kashmir and the Pakistan occupied Kashmir. And the second report was released in September when all our 3 guests had participated in that event also. And that particular event related to the release of a report on Chinese footprint, mapping Chinese footprint and influence operations in India. My dear friends from the US and Canada had come and spoken in that event also. Thank you to them for that. And Defense Capital is a publication which is released from Delhi on a monthly basis, and it deals with geopolitics and national security issues. So these are the host of the day. Before I get to our speakers, let me just show you a short video which encapsulates the importance of the day and why we are hosting this event. Just bear with me, I'm going to be sharing that video in just a minute. I hope you're able to see this videograph on the screen. Ilshad, can you confirm it?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Yes.
Is there a video that's running?
No, it says cannot view media file. It's
is it?
possibly, is my one something wrong? I don't know.
Maybe. Sheng is able to see that, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I'm able to see.
Yeah, it's my something wrong. That's fine.
Thank you, Ilshad. Could you see that video? I believe we've had a problem with that. Could you see any of the video? You are muted.
Couldn't. That's fine.
Okay, no problem. It will be uploading this on our Leon Society Alliance's YouTube channel just after the event. And I'll share the link with you. You can watch it and also share it with all your friends and others. Sheng could see it and Engepatu could see it. Thanks a lot. I hope all other participants today could also see this video. It's a very important messaging that we have done. We have talked about how the repressive regime in China, the autocratic regime in China, is dealing with its neighbors. It also how it's committing human rights violations within East Turkestan, Tibet, Hong Kong, and other places in southern Mongolia and other places. So this is a very important video that we have released today. We'll be uploading it in just a while after the event is over. So it's a very important topic today of why the democratic world should boycott the Beijing Winter Olympics in 2022. To speak on this subject, we have Ilshat Gogbore, Shengzi, and Engepatu here. Just before I call upon the speakers to speak, these are some administrative announcements. I request all participants to keep their mics on mute in case so that there is no disturbance when the speakers speak. We are recording this event, so we want quite a good quality audio and video there. That is precisely why I'm making this request. And also, if the participants have issues with their broadband network, I would suggest you mute your videos and just keep your audio on so that you are able to listen to what the speakers are saying, because the message is more important than what you see on the screen most of the time. So it's important that you hear what these important speakers are telling today, this important message that they are providing, as part of this event. So with that caveat, I'll just go as per the schedule that I've shared with the speakers. I'll ask Ilshad to speak first, then Sheng will follow on that, and then Engebatu will be our closing speaker. We intend to wrap up this event 1 hour 15 minutes or 1 hour 30 minutes. If there is enough time after the speakers have spoken, then we'll take up a couple of questions that the participants post on the chat box, that is available here on this screen. With that introduction and with that video that I've shared, I request Ilshed to begin the evening with this lecture. Ilshed, the time is yours.
Thank you so much, Bipendra. Special thanks to Law Society and Alliance, and also congratulations to Society, Law Society and Alliance for the report. We participated on the launch in the last. The report is Mapping Chinese Footprints and Influence Operations in India. It was on target, so if I'm wrong, please correct it. The second day or third day, the Chinese Global Times wrote a lengthy article accusing the Law Society and Alliance as a liar or whatever, doing propaganda and twisting the China's prosperity something, which means we are on target, which means we did the right thing. As long as the authoritarian government using their mouthpiece to attack us, which means we are in the firm right direction in our long march. Thanks for all the hard work for Law Society and Alliance. And today's topic is Olympic. I was looking at International Olympic Committee, and I find out International Olympics principle is non-discrimination. The first one is non-discrimination. Second one is sustainability. Third one is humanism. And then universality, solidarity, alliance between sport, education, and culture. So the Olympic Committee should promote non-discrimination, humanism, education, culture, equality. This is on their mission statement. But history taught us a different story. The International Olympic ignored the plea of the people, oppressed, suffering. The first one I witnessed was in 2008, in 10th of March in Lhasa, the capital of the Tibet, occupied Tibetan. The Tibetan people went to the street asking for their basic human rights. That was just before the 2008 Beijing Olympic. And the Chinese government brutally crushed it. So many Tibetans killed, arrested, disappeared. But the international world, the politicians, the big company CEOs, wishfully or sometimes in an appeasement attitude, they were saying, if China holds this Olympic, the China will change. It will become the part of the international world, and they will have the human rights. Give them a chance. And even that time, I remember the French President Sarkozy, he pressured China, if not having dialogue with His Holiness Dalai Lama's representative, he won't attend the Olympic. And the Chinese government mobilized their people in stage organized demonstration. The Chinese people went to the street boycotting the French shopping center, attacking the French. Then they had a short meeting with His Holiness Dalai Lama's representative in Beijing, just before the Olympic, but with a low-level official. Then the international world seems to find an excuse. The French president went to there, American president went to there. So the China successfully staged a grandiose Olympic. This was what I experienced. And after 2008, did China change? No. Tibetan's condition changed? No. Uyghurs' condition changed? No. Mongolians changed? No. Is any become better the Chinese people? No. Nothing changed. Opposite. More people get arrested. The grassroots movement of conscious lawyer, conscious citizens in China get arrested. The lawyer was get arrested. And in 2009, Chinese government repeated its 1 year ago what they did in Lhasa, in Urumqi. They massacred Uyghur people in 5th of July. Uyghur students and tens of thousands of Uyghur students, young disappeared, killed. Now, we are witnessing in East Turkestan the concentration camp, mass arrest, jailing of all Uyghur elites, professors, philanthropists, entrepreneurs, singers, artists, poets, writer, principal of the university. And as a Uyghur, I am personally was also a victim of this genocide. Victim of this genocide. My brother was killed by the Chinese mob in a restaurant. I told this story again and again. In the daylight. My sister, elder sister, was get arrested just because I sent her some support. He was arrested in 2008, 15th of August. She was a single mother with 2 kids, struggling to support her 2 kids, give them a better education, give them a chance. But now, she's disappeared. 2 kids same. And what I heard last year from a New Yorker journalist, my other sister with her husband, with her daughter, was also in a concentration camp. And my mother, she's 80 something. Since 2006, late August, I had the last phone call. In the phone call, she told me, don't call us again. We had enough. We had so much. We had suffered so much. Please, God bless you, son. Don't call. I didn't call for a while. As a son, I miss her. I want to talk to her. When I'm happy, I want to share my happiness. When I'm sad, I want to tell her my sadness. But no, I did try a few times. No one to pick up phone. I tried my best to find some friend, to find out if my mother's still alive, without any success. I want to know my 3 sisters, if they're alive. And each of them have 2 kids, if they are alive. No any information. Imagine, it is the 21st century. Information technology developed to anyone. We can attend a meeting in India now. Imagine any one of you, listener, my friends, on Saturday or Sunday, you can just pick up phone. Call your mom, call your sister, call your brothers. Tell them your story. But not us. But not me. Not the Uyghur. We pick up phone, no one pick up our call. We are suffering. And America, Canada, Holland, British, Latvia, their government or parliament already made a resolution. The Chinese government in East Turkestan is committing a genocide. Genocide. It is according to the United Nations 1948 206 resolution. Genocide resolution. I just now give one example of Olympic with my experience. That was in 2008. We, Uyghur, Mongolian, Tibetan, Chinese dissident, we together try to convince the world shouldn't give the chance to make the communist government to showcase their power in the international stage, but no one listened to us. In 1936, in Berlin, in Nazi Germany, had another one Olympic. And I did a search, Nazi Olympic Holocaust at that time in America, in Holland, in British, same as us. Some Jewish group, some others tried to convince the international world. Ask them, relocate or boycott. But the world ignored the call from the oppressed people like me. Then the Nazi had the Olympic, showcased their power. Before the Olympic, they take out some anti-Jewish, anti-Romas, anti-others slogan. Showed the world they are peaceful. They are a strong, united German. Now, Chinese is doing the same. But we have precedent. 1936 Olympic. If we say we made a mistake, we made this mistake again in 2008. And the English have one saying, cheat me once, shame on you. Cheat me twice, shame on me. Chinese Communist government will cheat us third time if we allow this brutal tyranny to host this Olympic by trampling our rights with our tears, with our relatives, dear ones, body under their feet. This is inhumanity. This is not humanism. This is not non-discrimination. China is openly discriminating non-Chinese people. And we have the Chinese virus still spreading, killing tens of thousands of people in India, in America, in Europe, even inside China. But we still don't know how it came out, what happened. We are not asking them to take responsibility. And now, some politician, some rogue CEO, some fortune-chasing IOC's leadership try to whitewash China's crime against humanity, ignore the genocide, ongoing genocide, giving them another one fanfare show. I call all people as a human being, as for the humanity, we need to stand up. We need to stop it. And I was searching for this presentation. I know it's too late, possibly. And in 1936, before the Nazi Olympic in America, in British, the NGO proposed have a People's Olympic in Spain. But because of the civil war happened in Spain, it was canceled. If we can do a People's Olympic, boycott the Chinese one, I believe with our united power, we are stronger. We can do it. We can at least boycott it. Please, as a son looking for a mother, as a brother looking for my 3 sisters, I'm calling all of you. Be conscious. Stop the Chinese Communist government. Stop the genocide. Boycott or relocate the Olympic game. Write to the Olympic Committee. Write to your government, your country's athletes. Ask them to be conscious. When they are standing over there in that Chinese stadium, they have to remember, if it's an American athlete, one of his patriots, sisters, mothers is in disappearance in that country, under that communist regime. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ilshad, for that very passionate appeal there. I want to assure you that Law and Society Alliance will be taking forward your suggestion of writing to the Indian government, the International Olympic Committee, and also to athletes who may be participating in this event in this regard. And we will forcefully do this campaign based on your suggestion. Thank you for that. And also, whenever I hear you talk about the kind of genocide that's been happening in East Turkestan against the Uyghurs, it does bring tears to my eyes. Your own personal story has always touched my heart every time. And there are innumerable thousands and thousands of people, maybe in millions of people from East Turkestan who have gone through the same sort of life experience that you have been put through by the repressive Communist Party government in China. And this program is dedicated to all of them. And I also thank you for mentioning about this Global Times reaction to the Law and Society Alliance report on how they use money to buy India. And you are absolutely right. When the Global Times reacts, it's the Communist Party of China itself reacting. It's the present communist regime in Beijing reacting. So we wear it on our like a medal of honor that we are bagged because of that. And thanks to them for the free publicity. What else can I say? So thank you so much for mentioning that. And now we move on to our next speaker, Sheng. Sheng, my dear friend, floor is yours. And we are looking forward to hearing you because you are one of those people who started off this campaign against the Beijing Winter Olympics. And I assured you that in the last meeting that we'll join your campaign. And here we are joining your campaign on a very important day as far as the people of China is concerned. And we are eager to listen to you. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you very much to having me here. And thank you for the Law and the Society Alliance working very hard on this important issue. Beijing has no right to host the 2022 Winter Olympic Games. Regardless of the CCP's inability, the fundamental problem is that the CCP's tyranny does not have any qualification to host the Olympic Games. The CCP has committed the most crimes against humanity in human history, many of which are still continuing, including the genocide, the culture extermination, the kidnapping diplomacy, the organ harvesting, and the concentration camps, and the religion's persecution, and the suppression of dissidents, and the forced disappearance of poets, writers, journalists, and human rights lawyers. In fact, the CCP should not be granted the qualification to host the Olympic Games. And it was granted the chance to hold the Olympic Games in 2008. But the CCP even getting much stronger and aggressive after the Olympic Games hosted in Beijing in 2008. And it is impossible for any other country to be allowed to host the Olympic Games if it is committed any of those crimes. So why is the CCP always be tolerated? The CCP's hosting of the Winter Olympic Games is not just a matter of sports, a matter of politics, or a matter of economy and culture. It is about the freedom and dignity of human society. And also, it also involves the safety and health matter of the entire world. Before the source and the spread of the CCP virus has been fully found and understood by the world, the CCP is not eligible to host the Olympic Games. And especially the pandemic has not yet ended. Tolerating Beijing's hosting of the Olympic Games is an offense to all those who love freedom, human rights, dignity, and peace. When the Canadian Parliament passed a bill condemning the Chinese Communist Party's genocide to Uyghurs and other ethnic majorities in February this year, it stated its opposition to the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics. I hope and I believe there will be more and more countries and the parliaments to pass such a bill to boycott the Beijing Olympic Games. That is what the free world should do, must do. In 2008, there wasn't enough groups or people to stand up to boycott the Beijing Olympic Games. As my friend Elisati just mentioned, the international community believed that China will be much more open and the human rights situation will be improved and people will enjoy more freedom. But this whole situation that has been watched by everybody, the situation getting much worse and worse as the concentration camps has been established in recent years under the eyes of the whole world is just unacceptable for the whole entire world, and also for the has been last 20 years, and it is acceptable. So, genocide in many ethnic areas, including in southern Mongolia, has been lasting for 70 years. And how could the international community to allow this happen and to grant another opportunity for Beijing, for China, for the tyranny to host another Olympic Games? And we all need to remember that China is a tyranny and the CCP is a terrorism power and is threatening the whole world. So I strongly urge that the Indian government, the Indian parliament should have such a statement and to pass a bill to boycott the Beijing Olympic Games. And India should join hands with like Japan, Taiwan, and the other democratic countries to stand up to China. And I have noticed that UK, United States, and Australia just have launched a security pact that against the threatening from China, which is very good and actually it's very urgent. And I believe a democratic India need to have much more support from the freedom community in the world and could do much more, especially in Asia. And we have not much time when the pandemic is still going on. And we should have very strong stand and effective method to boycott the Beijing Olympic Games and also to urge the world to do something to stop the concentration camp, to stop the genocide, to stop the organ harvesting, which are much, much more, 100,000 times important to our community, to the world. So thank you for the Law and Society Alliance doing this important thing and to give people chance to speak out for this issue that we need to stay much more solidarity. And otherwise, we all are facing the threatening from the CCP. And I cannot stay for the meeting until the end because I'm going to the Chinese consulate in downtown Toronto to join the demonstration to the Chinese communist. And good luck to everyone. And thank you again for the Law and Society Alliance. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheng, for those very important words. I really I hope the world wakes up to the concentration camps, the organ harvesting that's happening, and the genocide that's happening in all areas where the communist China has occupied territory and is subjugating the people, and also receive your point on the support that India needs to receive from the democratic world to take on more role in Asia very well. And thanks for your participation and for your time today. I know that it's a very important day for all three of the speakers because they will be participating in events that are happening within your own communities in the US and in Canada. Despite all that, you took time to be part of this. Thank you so much. We'll
And
be
I will
ending
wait
it
for
as
my
quickly as
friend
possible.
Enhabatu to speak.
Yes, so you can stay as long as you can, and we'll try to end it as quickly as possible. As I said, we wanted to give just about 1 hour and 1 hour 15 minutes time to complete the program. I now call upon my dear friend Enge Batu, who speaks so passionately about human rights and also has a story to tell of his own regarding the occupied territory of southern Mongolia. Uh, in the last meeting, I remember that he mentioned that he's one of those unfortunate Mongolians. So
Yes.
I hope there are new participants today in our program and they'll be able to listen to you. And we'll be posting this on our YouTube channel also very soon. So a lot of people will be viewing this video. Enge Badu, the time is yours, please.
Thank you. Good evening for our friends in India, and good morning to our fellow panelists here in the East Coast of North America. It's my honor to be here with all of you again to talk about the human rights records of China. Before I talk about human rights abuse of the Chinese government, I'd like to touch upon the way how China created the environment of these abusive and oppressive behaviors through territorial expansionism, especially in the mid 20th century, to occupy the three independent nations, namely Southern Mongolia, East Turkestan, and Tibet. As you know, historical China is no more than 1/5 of today's People's Republic of China, and it was confined to the traditional Chinese heartland, or the so-called the Zhongyuan, from which the very idea of Middle Kingdom was originated. The Chinese thought and then still thinking that they are the center of the world and all other nations and peoples are barbarians. They called all nomadic peoples in the north, like Mongolians, as Beidi or northern beasts. Called all people in the west, including like Uyghurs and Tibetans, as Xirong, meaning Western savages, and called the nations and peoples in the south, Nanman, which means southern barbarians, and called the countries in the east, like Japan and Korea, as Dongyi, meaning eastern aliens. So when it comes to the north, the Chinese have been particularly hostile toward the Mongolians throughout the entire history of China. The Great Wall is the greatest testimony to China's hostility toward Mongolians. Scholars, including many Western historians, simply accepted the Chinese version of explanation as to why the Great Wall was built, rebuilt, and fortified during every Chinese dynastic cycle, simply saying that it was to fend off the barbarian attacks from the north. I think, in my opinion, the Great Wall is the earliest evidence of institutionalized and state-sanctioned racial segregation and closed-mindedness in human history. It is a stubborn rejection and equal footing of nations, peoples, cultures, and civilization. It is a symbol of foolish arrogance and yet an indication of lack of self-confidence. The Great Wall mentality is still very much alive, and then in fact is the dominant state of mind of the Chinese state even today to deal with foreign affairs and foreign nations. On the other hand, the Great Wall can serve as the cleanest and clearest boundary between Mongolian nation and China. South to the Great Wall is China, and north to the Great Wall is undisputable territory of Mongolian nation throughout the history. There's no other two neighboring nations on our planet that have their territorial boundary as clear as China and Mongolia. Yet the People's Republic of China not only crossed this historical boundary to invade and colonize southern Mongolia, but also claiming that the Mongolians are now a member of Chinese nationality or so-called Zhonghua Minzu. This is when the tragic history of Southern Mongolia starts. In 1949, the Chinese annexed Southern Mongolia by force and called it the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region and promised the so-called nationality autonomy. And this model, the same model, was later on used in Tibet and East Turkestan. The past 73 years tell us that the nationality autonomy is a lie, and what fate awaited us was nothing but a series of genocide, ethnic cleansing, political repression, economic exploitation, cultural eradication, and environmental destruction. All these atrocities are planned carefully and implemented in a systematic manner. For example, in Southern Mongolia, the first in 1950s, the Chinese carried out the so-called anti-national rightist movement to purge the Mongolian elite. Tens of thousands of Mongolians were persecuted. Then the Chinese took away the Mongolian military rights after using them to put down the Tibetan uprising in the 1950s. In the 1960s through 1970s, the Chinese committed their first massive formal genocide in Southern Mongolia. Entire Southern Mongolian population was targeted by this genocide campaign that was carried out in the pretext of purging the members of separatist organization Inner Mongolian People's Revolutionary Party. The Mongolians were tortured to confess that they are the members of this the alleged national separatist group, and forced to provide the names of all of their family members, relatives, and even acquaintances as the members of the alleged group. In many cases, under unbearable torture, those who exhaustively provided the names of the alleged members of the separatist group even confessed that their pets, even livestock and household utensils, as a member of the alleged national separatist group. It is estimated that 100,000 Mongolians were tortured to death and then 500,000 imprisoned, tortured, and maimed. At that time, the total population of Mongolians in southern Mongolia is like 1.5 million. This means 1/3 of the total population is persecuted in this massive genocide campaign. Once the Mongolian population is crippled, reduced in number, now it is time for the Chinese to speed up their population transfer. In the early 1980s, the Chinese government proposed to migrate nearly 1 million Chinese peasants in a single wave of migration into southern Mongolia. As a result, in 1981, Mongolian students across the region took to the streets and said no to this policy. This was the largest student movement after the establishment of the People's Republic of China. After almost 2 months of protests, a school strike, the student movement was crashed by the Chinese authorities. So resistance never stopped. In 1990s, the Mongolian intellectuals and students rose up again and formed a number of underground organizations to fight for the national freedom. Among them, the largest and the most well-known one was the Southern Mongolian Democratic Alliance, whose goal is to fight for the total independence of Southern Mongolia and eventually to realize the dream of uniting with the independent country of Mongolia in the north. In 1995, the Chinese government cracked down on the organization and arrested many of their leaders and members. Mr. Hada, the president of the organization, was sentenced to 15 years in jail on charges of separatism and espionage. The vice president, Mr. Tukshi, was sentenced to 10 years in jail. Other leaders and members were sentenced and sent to labor camps in shorter terms. So in 2010, Mr. Hada was supposed to be released after serving his full sentence, but the Chinese authorities moved him into another black jail and kept him there for another 4 years without any charges. In the same time, his wife and the son were also arrested and sent to jail in multiple trumped up charges. Until last September, Hada was kept under house arrest in an apartment owned and run by the Chinese public security in Huhot. Since then, he has disappeared. So cracking down on these resistant movement, starting 2001, the Chinese authorities implemented new policies to wipe out the Mongolian traditional way of life. So two major policies are implemented. Then they are like ecological migration and ban over livestock raising. With these policies, Chinese government forcibly displaced the entire Mongolian herders population from their ancestral land to predominantly Chinese populated urban and agricultural areas. And then Mongolian traditional nomadic way of life was accused of being backward way of life and blamed for the environmental degradation that in fact was caused by the Chinese intensive farming and mining practice. So according to the Chinese State Council, China launched a massive resettlement project to resettle the remaining 1.2 million nomads by the end of 2015. That means China has successfully put an end to a nomadic civilization within its territories in 2000 by the end of 2015. So after taking away all these political rights and traditional way of life, now the Chinese government is targeting the Mongolian last defense of a national identity, that is the language. Starting last September, the Chinese government came up with a new policy called second generation bilingual education, with goal is to completely wipe out Mongolian language, culture, and identity from Southern Mongolia. As a result, entire Southern Mongolian population stood up again to say no to this new round of cultural genocide. Hundreds of thousands of students took to the streets, and millions of parents and teachers launched a total school boycott. Of course, the Chinese regimes responded with a heavy-handed crackdown. We estimated more than 10,000 Southern Mongolians arrested, detained, imprisoned, and placed under house arrest. Following this crackdown, what the Chinese governments are carrying out in Southern Mongolia now is a region-wide intensive training called the Training for the Firm Inculcation of Chinese Nationality Common Identity. Under the slogan of speak Chinese and become a civilized person, the entire Mongolian population, including students, teachers, government officials, and ordinary herders, are subject to this training to discard their so-called narrow nationalistic identity and become a more civilized member of Chinese nationality. This is what's happening in Southern Mongolia. So when we talk about Olympic Games, so allowing this kind of a regime of genocide, a regime of atrocities, a regime against humanity to host the Olympics game is just like allowing Nazi Germany to host another Olympics. It's against the Olympic Games, the very idea of promoting common humanity that actually China is working to destroy. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Engi Batu, for those incisive remarks there. Again, the Southern Mongolian story is again a very heart-wrenching story when I hear that again and again. And thank you for sharing it with me today, with all of us today here in this program. And what you said about allowing this particular Chinese regime to host Olympics is like allowing for another, major disaster happening in this world after World War II. And I think the world should wake up. The democratic world should stand together and preferably host this event at another venue in a democratic part of the world. I hope that happens. We are almost at the end of the event. If there are any questions, I requested the participants to put it on the chat box. Before I take up any question that comes up, I just want to acknowledge the presence of one of my mentors here in this program, Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia. He was the Indian Army's Director General of Military Operations previously. He's now retired. He's one of my mentors, and thank you, sir, for participating in this event. I also see Colonel Vinayak Bhatt, who is again another friend of mine, a very old friend of mine, who is here today. I just wanted to recognize their presence. Thank you so much for being here. If there are any questions, my friends can open up their mics and ask the question. If not, we'll end the program and we'll let all our friends from the US and Canada to go and participate in their own events that are happening in their part of the world today. Are there any questions? Okay, I think there are no questions that are coming, but I think the questions aren't there because most of our participants are quite convinced with the idea of what that was presented in the event today, and the speakers have convinced them that it is important for the democratic world to shun and boycott the Beijing Winter Olympics, and hopefully the democratic world wakes up and does it. And we'll follow up on what Ilchet Kogbure suggested to us today of writing to the Olympic Committee, the Indian Olympic Committee, and also the athletes and others, the government, to boycott this event. We'll do that campaign as early as possible and immediately. So thank you so much to all the participants today and all the speakers. Ilshat, Ngebatu, my dear friends, thank you for participating and honoring me by accepting my invitation every time. We look forward to work together in the years to come and in the days to come. And we'll come up with another program very soon. We'll come up with another explosive report, just like the Chinese footprint report that we brought out recently. We're working towards. I don't want to spill the beans right now. So when the report is ready, we'll come back to you again to participate in that report release event also. Thank you so much. People from the US, friends from US, go and participate. Do your campaigns there and let us all achieve what we are intended to achieve of ensuring that this repressive and regime in Beijing exists no more, and there is a democracy that prevails in China in the future, and there is freedom and human rights for every individual in that part of the world very soon, and there is freedom for East Turkestan, Southern Mongolians, and others. Thank you, Sheng. I can see that wonderful mask that you have of boycott Beijing Winter Olympics that you.
We need to get one.
We all need to get one. You need to send it across to all of us.
All right.
Thank you so much. With that, we will end the program. Thank you very much.
Thank
Again,
you.
Namaskar.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, my friends. Thank you.
And thank you, my friends.